Tonight on Here and Now, from Labrador to the Avalon, this wave of summer heat is hampering salmon fishing.
According to local anglers, the warm temperatures are having an effect on local salmon stocks in central Newfoundland.
The water temperatures are just really high, water levels are low, and fishing is just not that great.
We'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
What I do in the world requires a lot of risk-reward analysis, and is the reward worthy of the risk? So for me, camping on an iceberg isn't worth the risk.
There were attempted transatlantic journeys in balloons and tiny boats, tenting on an iceberg, and the Titan tragedy. We look at the risk of adventure tourism.
Coming up on CBC, the Wiener Wagon here in Placentia.
On Saturday, there was 7,600 people there. We always say it's never too early in the day for a hot dog. 8 o'clock that morning, there was 50 people lined up looking for a hot dog.
Life is short, eat the wiener.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Warm weather has meant a rise in water temperatures right across the province, and local anglers say that's stressing the salmon. As Here and Now's Troy Turner reports, dozens of rivers have now been closed.
It's an idyllic scene. The roar of falling water after a heavy rainfall. A fresh breeze coming off a calm river. Flies dropping into pools with hopes of attracting Atlantic salmon. But this year, there's a downside.
Water levels they went low quick. Water temperatures rose very quickly, which caused salmon to become more lazy and more lethargic. You know, not really interested in fly.
DFO closed 77 rivers across the province this afternoon, from Labrador to the Avalon Peninsula. Many others are relegated to morning angling only. Chris Humber has been fishing out of this spot for about 15 years. Regulars have even named a small pool after him. But now he's taking a break from the river, hoping it will help the stock's survival. His friends are doing the same.
We feel it's better to leave the fish alone, let them do their thing and get up to their spawning grounds, right?
On the Gander River system, there are similar concerns.
Like last year, in the air, and we don't know to tell probably what's going to happen in the future, but it doesn't look good. It sounds like doom and gloom.
Calvin Francis figures salmon swimming up larger rivers will be fine, but he worries about the tributaries drying up and fish dying.
It's very rare, and sadly it may continue for some time yet, and that's going to have a big effect on fishery, on the salmon populations, and the activity, and the recreational fishery, which is big industry for us people. A lot of up to 100 people are employed summertime on the Gander River as guides, cooks, and managers.
We usually get warm temperatures every summer, right? But it seems like this year have been like remarkably hot weather, and it has brought the temperatures in the river up like drastically quick, right? And it's something different. It don't normally happen like every year.
Anglers here are hoping next season will bring with it some cooler temperatures. And while Chris Humber says he's hung up the rod for this season, he's still looking forward to the fall and moose hunting. Troy Turner, CBC News, Great Rattling Brook.
Well, an expert at Memorial University says we're seeing abnormally high water temperatures this summer. He says larger adult-sized salmon can't tolerate that warm water, and juvenile salmon are also at risk. It was a similar story last year.
Last year in central Newfoundland, where it was really warm as well, in late July, there were reports of dead fish in streams as well. So it seems to be getting more frequent, in recent years, but it has happened in the past. It's certainly, whether it's a trend, maybe with the warming climate, we might predict it at a trend. Remember in June, it was really cold, right? So June was so cold, but it doesn't take long for when the weather and particularly if the nighttime temperature stays warm. So that way, because these smaller rivers, for example, they track the atmospheric temperature quite well. So even if they warm up during the day, if they cool down at night, the salmon get a bit of reprieve. But if the nighttime temperatures are 20 degrees, the streams are not going to cool down. So it'll only take a few days or a week or whatever, and it's going to get really, really warm.
Well, Ottawa says a shipping vessel is to blame for a 2020 oil spill in Postville. According to court documents, the Canadian Coast Guard is pointing the finger at the Woodward Group of companies and coastal shipping. As Here and Now's Heidi Adder reports, it's the first time the company has been pinpointed and residents want to see consequences.
Charlie and Gail Flowers say they knew something was wrong on June 8, 2020, when the smell of diesel blanketed their small remote community.
You can see all the diesel oil on the oil on the surface of the water, all blue and rainbow colored. It was everywhere. It's a really strong smell.
For the first time, the federal government is pointing to the Tuvac W, the Woodward's oil shipping boat. In court papers, the Canadian Coast Guard says the Tuvac W was involved in an incident that resulted in it releasing oil into the water. The Coast Guard wants Woodward's to pay $28,000 to cover the cost of the cleanup, but Woodward says the federal government has it wrong. It denies responsibility and will defend the claim in court.
People in Postville deserve answers.
Glenn Shepard was the Ongukok back in 2020 and says the cleanup amount, $28,000, is the cost of a new skidoo, just pennies for a company of Woodward's size. Shepard wants to see stiffer fines for oil spills, not just reimbursement.
We want to send a message out to whatever level of government is responsible that this type of action should not continue or should never have happened in our community. $28,000 doesn't cut it for the people of Postville for when it comes to contaminants being dumped into our bay.
Nanatsiavit says it has no comment while the case is before the courts, though no court date has been set. Heidi Adder, CBC News, Happy Valley, Goose Bay.
We've seen a string of dangerous misadventures this summer, often by thrill-seeking tourists. From a failed transatlantic balloon flight to the sailor who tried crossing the Atlantic in a tiny boat, not to mention the summer's Titan tragedy, it's all sparking debate over who should pay for a rescue should things go wrong. The CBC's Chris O'Neill-Yates reports.
There was a British couple who ran into trouble attempting a transatlantic balloon flight. A sailor who tried and failed to cross the Atlantic in a 1-meter boat.
The boat basically sunk.
And of course, the expedition to the wreck of the Titanic that ended in tragedy. Concerns about risky tourism adventures really ramped up after this picture of 2 Americans camping on an iceberg went viral.
We're not encouraging it, but I would argue that this is roughly on the same plane of a lot of things or a lot of the risks that people take.
That's not how this professional ice climber sees it.
People will look at that and go, okay, well, that turned out well, so everything's good. But the reality is that they had no idea of what their hazards were. They were remarkably clueless.
Will Gadd says he'd never camp on an iceberg. He's climbed them, but with proper gear and a boat standing by in case anything went wrong.
One of the biggest concerns for me personally is try to minimize the amount of risk I would put a rescuer in.
I think we are living in a time of the Instagram-driven kinds of stunt.
T.A. Loeffler is an experienced adventurer who's climbed peaks in 20 countries.
If I do need to be rescued, I have to pay for that rescue, or the insurance that I carry pays for that rescue for the helicopter time. So there is that responsibility.
Right now, public money pays for rescues in Canada. Some say thrill seekers who get in trouble should help foot the bill.
The responsible thing would be for these people to post a significant bond to cover at least a good portion of the costs involved.
After this summer of misadventures in Newfoundland, it's an idea that could gain support. Chris O'Neill-Yates, CBC News, St. John's.
And if you are planning any safer adventures, especially through central to the northern Avalon, beware of heat. That is the danger we are currently facing, with temperatures going to be highs of 29 degrees, humidex up to 35 in this area of red. So that has expanded more from yesterday. We're also looking at a severe thunderstorm watch for Churchill Falls and the Churchill Valley. Taking a look now at the weather that is on the way. The risk of thunder showers, we could see that through Central tonight. Sun and cloud for the island on Wednesday, but some showers through Labrador tomorrow. Taking a look at our future tracker now, we see some showers for Happy Valley Goose Bay. Tonight, that rain and shower activity going to push out to the coast, and it will brush the west coast and across the northern peninsula. But things will clear out as we go into tomorrow. So we'll talk about that and more a little later in the show.
Thanks, Heather. Well, the RNC in St. John's is warning the public about the presence of fentanyl being found in illicit drugs, specifically cocaine. Police are warning of the life-threatening consequences of ingesting fentanyl, saying even a minuscule amount can be fatal. They advise anyone using illicit drugs to ensure they have a naloxone kit close by. Those kits are available for free through Health and Community Services or online at gov.nl.ca. Well, the provincial NDP says some Ukrainian families are panicking. They received notice letters giving them 2 weeks to vacate a government-funded hotel and find an alternative place to live. But Immigration Minister Jerry Burns says those families are not being evicted. They're being asked to leave to make room for other families in need.
The fact is they cannot find any place affordable to live. And guess what? That's the issue we've been raising for a while. That was the issue that we saw brewing back in 2022 when the government announced its Ukrainian Family Help Desk in Poland.
It's the Association for New Canadians that's really front and center in our Ukrainian refugee resettlement initiatives. They have got great experience and great wisdom in this efforts. They know that it's very important for Ukrainians, like all refugees, to get out into community as reasonably quickly as possible. There is no eviction. This is unfortunate that the New Democratic Party and Mr. Dinh has taken this in a certain context which is outside of the Association for New Canadians and what they've told them.
I noticed that the ANC has issued a recall to people to take Ukrainian newcomers in. You know what? That works fine if indeed people have the capacity to bring people in. But that's not the answer. The answer is you've got to address the housing issue here, and that's what I want to see.
Canada only allows a maximum of 60 days temporary accommodations for any refugee. Maximum, and after that there is an eviction by Canada. Newfoundland and Labrador, we don't do that. In fact, Ukrainians have now received 110 days before the last notice that we would like them and encourage them to get out into community. So there are no evictions underway. There are Ukrainians that have been gainfully employed and been living in a temporary accommodation in the hotel for well over 110 days. What we're asking them, make room for other Ukrainians, get out into the community. And in fact, we recognize that that's sometimes difficult, but it's in their best interest. It's in the best interest of everybody.
They've got to address the housing crisis. We are seeing rents skyrocket. People on fixed incomes can't afford the property they're in. So we've got to find a way to make this affordable for everyone. Basically, I think government has let down, as one of the people who, one of the volunteers I spoke to, government has failed the Ukrainians, the people that they brought in there. They are doing a disservice, and they want to see better.
Well, so you heard the immigration minister taking issue with the NDP's implication that Ukrainians are being evicted. So what does the ANC have to say about this push to move Ukrainians out of their temporary housing? That conversation is coming up ahead in about 20 minutes on Here and Now. Well, now to some health news. The province is studying how it can add 10 more spots at the medical school at Memorial University. Right now, there are 80 seats at the school, and they're looking for an outside company to advise them on whether the infrastructure, staffing, and equipment would allow it to happen. Now, the health minister says this would help alleviate the shortage of doctors in the province.
The reason we increased the number of seats last year and hoping to again is we know that students from Newfoundland and Labrador who study in Newfoundland and Labrador tend to stay in Newfoundland and Labrador. This will be a source of physicians.
And the province is hoping to entice companies to create new jobs in the province by offering to pay for some of the salary for new workers. The government will pay for 10% of the salary costs for each job and 15% if they hire a recent graduate or a new resident who has skills that are in demand. Now, the company has to create at least 20 jobs over 3 years, and the average salary of those jobs has to be more than $50,000 a year.
This ties into the work that our government is already doing, Jerry Byrne and his team are doing in terms of bringing in new Canadians, bringing people to this province. This ties into this, but it's not meant to exclude anybody. We just want to see job creation. And right now, I mean, that's one of the things. We are absolutely in not just a national competition, but a global competition when it comes to labor. So again, we want to try to do what we can to help companies, whether they're here and homegrown or they might be looking at opportunities to set up. Where are we going to set up? Well, hopefully we can help, again, put them over the edge when it comes to setting up here.
Well, if you're passing through Placentia, it's hard to miss the Wiener Wagon. It's a giant inflatable hot dog, it's a giant inflatable hot dog, rather. It's a father-son duo who are behind that business, but it's not just about selling hot dogs and French fries. For the 23-year-old vendor, it's also an opportunity to make a living and interact with his community. Here now's Henrika Wilhelm has that story.
12 o'clock, peak time for this father-son team at the Wiener Wagon, serving up hot dogs, fries and more to hungry customers. It's a business idea that started to support Jake.
Jake is on the autism spectrum. We have Asperger's. Jake graduated from a cooking course and he was finding it difficult to find work. And I seen this cart for sale up in Stanhope. And I said to him, why don't we approach it, the guy who's selling it, and maybe we can get it for a half decent price, and then you can become your own boss. And that's what happened.
For Jake, cooking has always been a part of his relationship with Father Ray.
For as long as I can remember, me and Dad usually did a lot of baking experiments when I was but a young kid. We would make cupcakes, we baked bread. At first, I decided maybe just become a pastry chef, but then I decided, why stick with the one thing when you could just do both?
The business quickly took off, not despite, but thanks to the pandemic.
No one was allowed inside any buildings, so people would stop by the road, honk their horn, put in their order, we'd bring it out to the car, they'd pay through, just slipping the money into the window, and it worked out. Had a phenomenal year.
At first, we were just sitting by the road, waiting for people to come to us. But then eventually we started doing events and our popularity just rose from there. Yeah. We've been getting more and more events, and honestly, I'm astounded by how big this has become.
For Jake, it's a way of improving his social skills.
I think it's a pretty big achievement for me. I mean, I don't consider myself a special little snowflake or anything, but yeah, I think it's pretty good, I get to exercise my skills and get to meet people, and keeps me busy.
For the future, the two have big plans, making the Wiener Wagon a full-time gig for son and father.
There's only one wagon, so it's hard to be in two places at once. Obviously we can't, and we've turned down some big jobs because of it, so there's potential there for more. So hopefully within the next 3 years we'll be moving on to the second vehicle, and then I can get him a coach to go with him, and I'll venture off in another direction, and hopefully by the end of the day it works out.
It's an opportunity Jake is grateful for.
I just want to thank my dad for helping me out with this. He's been a big help. And for all who are wondering, I pay him weekly. Very weekly. And if anyone's watching this, I hope you come down for a Big Willie or a hot dog or something, and
life is short. Eat the wiener.
Henrika Wilhelm, CBC News, Placentia.
And it is warm right across the island. Look at some of these humidex values, 35 in Badger, but if you're too hot, a cool off is coming during the weekend. We'll talk about that a little later on.
Well, check out these visitors in the Strait of Belle Isle. Wow. Brittany Neville took this video. Neville says the orcas would come close to the boat and even go under it.
And then she said they would leave. Look at them, oh my God. She said they would leave and swim away before coming back and doing it all over again. She said she's glad that they were playful, but she didn't love it when they went under the small boat that they were in. Fair enough, I guess.
Definitely would make me nervous.
What stunning creatures, oh my God.
Gorgeous, what great video. That must have been so exciting.
What an experience for Brittany.
Well, Heather, we've been talking so much about the heat, and there have been some records broken.
That's right, some new, only two, not as high as the ones that we've had over the past week or so since I've been with you. But just take a look at these ones here. We've got Burgeo, 22.7 is their new record set yesterday, and that's higher than their old record, which was 21.3. Argentia, 22.2, higher than 21.7, which was their record from 1953. Taking a look at today's highs, warm temperatures again, 29 in St. John's, 30 in Terra Nova, 31 in Badger, in the mid-20s down along the south coast. And when we get up to the Northern Peninsula, Mary's Harbour cooling off a touch there, just below 20, but creeping back up for Cartwright and Makovic. Chillier in Nain and Hopedale, but into the 20s for Happy Valley Goose Bay to Labrador West. Adding in that humidex, up to 35 in Badger today, so warm in the interior of the island. Feeling like 32 in St. John's, 33 in Corner Brook, so very warm again. Many parts of the province under that heat warning that we were talking about earlier, but for the province, it looks like we will see things cool off a touch, just dip under 20 going on into the weekend, because we've had a long stretch, almost 11 days of above 25 here in St. John's. Will that change on Friday and Saturday and Sunday? We will see. But taking a look at our thunderstorm outlook, we were talking about this earlier too. You can see that there's a moderate risk of thunderstorms through central Labrador and for the northeast part of Newfoundland. You guys could see some thunder showers tonight there as well. Here you go. That's your severe thunderstorm watch for Labrador. And when we were talking last night, we had one down here for the island. So you can see some showers moving across parts of the province right now through central. And you can see that there in the future tracker now. So what's going to happen for the island is this is going to clear out, leaving some clouds in the overnight. And we're having some showers in northern Labrador. We could see 5 to 10 millimeters in Nain. And that's going to push down here as we go into tomorrow. And then it'll be a fairly nice day on Wednesday for many parts. Looking at tonight, temps in the mid-teens for much of the island, 18 though in St. John's. A few thunder showers there, like I said, through central. Clouds for the south coast, 15 to 16 there, so cooler there. And cooling off yet again for the Straits and into St. Anthony, 11, 12 degrees, and up onto the coast here where we could get 5 to 10 for Nain, 5 millimeters, and a few thunder showers possible for Happy Valley Goose Bay. And you could pick up a few millimeters in Labrador City, Wildbush, but right here in the middle where Churchill Falls is, you could see 5, you could see 10. If you have a heavy thunder shower, you could see up to 20 millimeters there. So that's your tonight forecast. Tomorrow morning when we wake up, some clouds, fog possible for the island with some showers moving across and some more showers kind of pushing across southeastern Labrador, but in the north you'll see some clouds as well there. As we go into tomorrow evening, some showers pushing across and some more cloud for the island. Taking a look at tomorrow now for St. John's and the Avalon, feeling like 31 with that humidex, cooler on the southern Avalon, feeling like 30, sun and cloud in Marystown. Beautiful day in Bonavista at 32. Moving into central, could have 2 to possibly 10 millimeters there. Picking up possible thunder showers through central, feeling like 30 for you folks. To the west coast, cooler on the coast, on the south coast, 20, 21 degrees for you folks. Warming up just a touch as we get into the west coast at 23 with your winds gusting to 40. On up to the northern peninsula now. You could have a chance of showers there on the northern peninsula and through the Straits. You could pick up 2 to 4 millimeters for the Straits into Cartwright and a chance of showers in Mary's Harbor there as well. Into the rest of Labrador, cooler on the coast, of course, with a chance of showers. Happy Valley, Goose Bay, feeling like 28 when you add in your humidex there. Could pick up a few showers in Labrador City and in Churchill Falls. 2 to 4, possibly even 5 millimeters of showers accumulating for you folks. Now, your long-range forecast, we'll take a look at that a little later in the show.
I can't overstate how much happier I am now than I was a year ago. It's great. There's no traffic on the basement steps in the morning.
Making the move to tech. A booming industry has many ditching their normal 9 to 5, like this former prison guard. That story's coming up. Earlier in the show, we told you about some Ukrainian families who've been given 2 weeks' notice to vacate the government-funded hotel where they've been living since arriving in the province. NDP leader Jim Dinh says some families are afraid they won't find accommodation or they can't afford it. Late this afternoon, we spoke with Megan Morris of the Association for New Canadians to get more details about the situation.
In terms of the letter folks received, that policy was introduced in the beginning of April.
So it's really been several months that folks have known that there's a 45-day window that they had an opportunity to apply for an extension to their stay based on a number of criteria. However, some individuals were not granted an extension to their stay. So that's where we are right now. But individuals have the opportunity to connect with a team of housing workers who've probably been working with them all along to help find housing. And most of these folks that would have gotten a letter, if not all of them, would have employment.
Okay, so for these families who have not been granted the extension, what will happen to them if they can't find housing?
Well, I guess, our team will work closely with them, our case managers, along with the housing team, along with the employment team. So they'll be working with them, continue to work with them over the course of the next couple of weeks. And, we'll try to get them in some housing. However, if we get to that point and someone doesn't have housing, then we have to revisit it at that point.
Mm-hmm. And Jim Dinh, the leader of the NDP, was also raising concerns, saying that some of these families, they're working on minimum wage, not making a lot of money, and it's a difficult town right now to try to find, not just find accommodation, but if you're working a minimum wage, to afford to pay for an accommodation. So what do you say to that for those families who, yes, they have been working, but they feel like that they just can't afford to go it on their own yet?
Right. So the first thing I would say is that every application was assessed by a panel of folks who were looking at, what their employment was, what their family situation was. So every case was considered carefully before if their extension was turned down. So while I can't speak to particular cases, I know that that was a really careful process that we went through to make sure that if folks didn't get an extension, that they hopefully would be in a position to find housing. But as well, we also have programming and relocation supports to help them. We've housed over 1,600 people since this initiative began, 750 families. And we didn't do it alone. We had a lot of help from our partners, from the community who came to this and offered homes to people. And in fact, with the support of the province, we actually are launching a host homestay program where hosts will receive some funding in order to allow someone to come into their home and stay for a period of time. So a lot of thought went behind this, and there's a lot of support for folks who are looking for housing right now.
And why is it so important to kind of shuffle some of these families out of the hotel, the families that have not received the extension? Why is it they need to move on?
Sure. I think there's a couple of reasons why people need to move on. First of all, we're at capacity. We really need to, if we're going to help more people, we need people to move on. It's really the type of work we do all the time with many newcomer groups. When we have a temporary accommodation is supposed to be temporary. Some people have been there a very long time. It's really important for their integration and their good settlement that they move out into the community and, get their own home. I don't know about you, but I think if I lived in a hotel room for such a long time with a family, that's not a great situation. So we really, really want people to get out and to, we're there to support them. When they move out, we're still there to support them. If they get into an accommodation they feel is not the right one, we will continue to support them to find another accommodation. But it's really critical for good resettlement that we get them into the community and into their own accommodation, whether it's shared, whether it's with a community member who's offering to host Ukrainians. It's just a really important part of their settlement process.
And that was Megan Morris at the Association of New Canadians. Now, she mentioned the Homestay Host program. They're looking for people to host Ukrainians in their homes. The program offers financial aid, $1,000 a month for up to 5 months. So if you'd like to learn more, you can contact the Association for New Canadians. Well, in other news, the demand for technology workers in this province has some people considering a second career. A program is helping people retrain, taking a prison guard and turning him into a coder, and a teacher who went from building classroom curriculums to building training simulations for Marines. Here now's Arlette Lazarenko met up with them.
Andrew Reynolds used to work as a prison guard. His day started with a commute to Her Majesty Penitentiary, and he hated it.
I was probably 3 months into the job, and it wasn't for me.
Then 3 months turned into 8 years.
We bought a house and we had a kid, and the thought of leaving a stable career was scary. So I tried to stick it out. It got to the point where I didn't feel like I was the same person as I was before I started in corrections.
His solution? Newfoundland's booming tech sector.
Tech is something that always interested me. I Googled something along the lines of learning to code in Newfoundland, and I came across a CBC article about Get Coding.
Get Coding is an online bootcamp that teaches coding through projects.
It was extremely hectic. Life was very hard for the entire time I was in Get Coding, but I knew it was going to be worth it. I knew if I just stuck to it, it would be worth it, and God love my wife, she supported me through it all.
7 months later, he now shares an office with his daughter, building projects for local tech company Net Benefit Software.
I can't overstate how much happier I am now than I was a year ago. It was worth it. It's great. There's no traffic on the basement steps in the morning. But just being home, being able to see my 2 girls, being able to help if help is needed around the house, not having to drive a half an hour to and from work. When work is over, I can come up and help with supper. It's amazing. I love it.
So that was Andrew, but he's not the only one who changed his career into tech. Wait till you meet Jackie.
If you'd like, you can give it a shot.
I would love to.
Sounds good, so just hop on here.
Just like Reynolds, Jackie Berry was in the middle of a career when she stirred the wheel into a new career in tech.
I worked as a teacher for 4 years, but I wasn't loving the role that I was in. There's a lot of stress in the education field, especially dealing with COVID, which was unprecedented, something we hadn't experienced before, and I was burnt out.
Berry also took the Get Coding bootcamp, and it turns out her past experiences were the key to her new role, combining education and tech knowledge.
I still get to leverage all of those skills, and instead of teaching in the classical classroom environment, we're teaching life skills in marine safety.
From creating courses and a curriculum for kids to now doing this kind of training for offshore Marines and workers. That's quite a career change.
Get Coding co-owner Jan Mertlik says career changers like Berry and Reynolds are exactly who the program was designed for.
We have a variety of students coming from a diversity of different backgrounds, prison guards, teachers, construction workers, heavy equipment operators, people from hospitality, chefs. Anyone can learn how to code. And what's really special about the tech industry is that the skills you've gained in your past career, you can take them and transfer them into tech.
Reynolds and Berry are 2 of the 25 people who changed their careers through Get Coding. Their advice is that it's not too late to try again.
The act of giving up a stable job and transitioning to something completely new is one of the scariest decisions you'll make. But if you're not happy, there's options out there.
Arlette Lazarenko, CBC News, St. John's.
Is due to my loyal customers. My customers all the time advising me, Mohammed, can you bring these items? It's missing in your store.
Well, it's a rare pandemic success story, how an international market in St. John's just keeps growing. That story ahead after international news. Well, now to some federal politics. Joyce Murray won't be seeking re-election. The federal fisheries minister is one of 4 Liberals who've announced they won't run again ahead of tomorrow's expected cabinet shuffle. Now, the choice of fisheries minister tends to alternate between the coasts, and with Murray from BC, it seems the next fisheries minister could be from one of the Atlantic provinces. The CBC's Karina Roman has more on what to expect.
7 ministers will no longer sit at the cabinet table after tomorrow, according to sources with knowledge of the shuffle but not authorized to speak publicly. Marco Mendicino, the public safety minister, is being dropped, likely over his handling of the Paul Bernardo prison transfer, as well as foreign interference in gun legislation. Justice Minister and Attorney General David Lametti is also out, as is Treasury Board President Mona Fortier. Some ministers have decided not to run in the next election.
As a result of this decision, I'm also stepping aside from my role as minister because the Prime Minister deserves a cabinet who is committed to running in the next federal campaign.
Also departing politics, Helena Jasic, the Public Services and Procurement Minister, Joyce Murray, Fisheries and Oceans Minister, and Mental Health and Addictions Minister Carolyn Bennett. With so many leaving, sources say a half-dozen rookies will be sworn in. As to who the new faces might be, cryptic answers.
Those who don't know can't answer that question, and those who do know can't answer that question. So I can't answer that question.
Or stock answers by those who might end up moving portfolios.
I serve at the pleasure of the Prime Minister, and I say this because really I didn't see myself ever being in a position like this. So whatever or wherever he wants me, I will be.
Sources say Anita Anand will leave defense and move to an economic portfolio. CBC journalists saw Anand heading to the Prime Minister's residence this morning, as well as Sean Fraser and Bill Blair. And there will be a restructuring of departments to put a greater focus on housing. Those who are staying and not changing portfolios, Chrystia Freeland as Finance and Deputy Prime Minister, Melanie Joly as Foreign Affairs Minister, Stephen Guilbeault as Climate Change Minister. Karina Roman, CBC News, Ottawa.
When he lost his job during COVID, Mohamed Kazmi decided to start his own business. The Andalusia market has gone through several expansions, and today they opened a brand new store on O'Leary Avenue in St. John's. The CBC's Martin Jones stopped by.
Andalusia Market is an international grocery store. It sells Indian, Middle East, Iranian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, most of the communities, and then African. We are trying to include other communities like Afghani and Ukrainian as well, so they are looking for some items. So trying to include all the groceries for the international community. Also, I've seen a lot of demand also from local Newfoundlanders as well. They like to come and try some sweets and try some stuff that they used to have when they are traveling, and they were coming to asking about spices and stuff like that. So there's a like increase in demand. I started in Pitt Street in a 31 Pitt Street. In a small location, it was around 800 square feet, and then last year I moved to the same building around 1,500 square feet, and this year we got a second location bigger, 4,500 square feet, and we added the butcher shop, local butcher shop serving meat and chicken, and also we have a fish depot selling fresh fish as well. I think the idea of developing the business is due to my loyal customers, because I have been seeing my customers all the time advising me, Mohammed, can you bring these items? It's missing in your store. So I got that response from customers, a lot of demanding in their own products, and most of the times they succeeded to get their groceries, and which makes me like thinking about getting a bigger location and get more varieties. Yeah.
All right, Mohammed, we're in the produce section here at the market. Show me some of the stuff.
So I'll show you today the fresh almonds.
Okay.
So usually you crack what inside, you crack and you eat the nut inside. And also we have, for example, a rambutan.
Yeah.
It's a summertime fruit.
So wait, just going back to the almond, these are almonds as in traditional almonds like we would use in baking and
Yes,
snacks and stuff like that.
It's like fresh, like you peel it or you crack it with a stone or something.
Yeah.
And then you eat the almond inside.
And you were saying, depending on the season too, you might even just eat it just the way that it is.
Yes, usually like start on springtime and they start very fresh. You can chew it as is without taking anything of it.
Yeah.
Or you can wait, like this is the end of the season of almond. So usually they get the shell very hard. So you crack it and you eat the almond inside.
Amazing. We're at the fish counter.
Yeah.
What are we seeing here?
So we see a couple of different fish. So we have salmon, we have mahi-mahi, we do have clams, we do have Spanish mackerel, we do have squid, sea bream, sea bass, we do have some scallops, oysters, so
and then
smells.
And then the full butcher behind as well?
Yes, the butcher shop is all behind here.
And what kind of stuff will you offer at the butcher?
So we offer, today we have chicken, we have goat and lamb and beef, liver, kidney.
Macdouce?
Macdouce.
Macdouce.
Macdouce. So
What is
macdouce
it?
is a stuffed eggplant with walnuts and the red pepper and garlic.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So usually people, Middle Eastern, they eat that in the morning.
Yeah.
So in the
morning.
breakfast, yes.
Mohammed, this location has been open for a little over 20 minutes. The place is already full. How does that feel?
I think it's good as a start. You know, for the ground opening, I feel it's good. It's good to see customers around and getting their own missing items, which they couldn't find in my store before.
Yeah.
So now they are finding all the groceries around, and they are happy to fill their baskets. And so I'm happy too.
Yeah.
If my customers are happy, I'm happy too.
All right, time for a look at the long-range forecast. And are these warm temperatures going to be around, continuing throughout the week?
Well, it looks like that heat warning, according to Environment Canada, is going to last until Thursday, and it looks like going into the weekend temperatures should dip a little bit, so it'll be a little bit more comfortable for people who really aren't enjoying this heat.
There are a few of them.
A few people, we're really not used to this kind of heat, so
Yeah.
it's a bit oppressive for some people in a lot of our older homes that are not insulated.
Yes, and it's hard to get an air conditioner.
Yes, yeah.
Right now,
We
my
wanna
goodness.
Keep the heat in, not keep it out, in my home at least. But let's take a look at what's on the way. For Wednesday evening, you can see a few showers across southern Labrador and on the southwest coast of the island. And as we go into Thursday, what we will see is for St. John's and the Avalon, a beautiful day, sun and cloud, 27 degrees. But as we head a little further west and into central, we could pick up in Gander a chance of showers. However, down here on the south coast, we'll have a little bit more cloud than we do here in St. John's, just a degree or two cooler at 26. But for Grand Falls, Windsor, and west, it looks like we could pick up a chance of showers. So cloudy with a chance of showers for many places there. Looking like we could pick up some showers, though, for the west coast and into the northern peninsula. The Straits, it looks like you've got a mix of sun and cloud, chance of showers there. Beautiful day at 23 in Cartwright with some sun for you folks, but some showers here in Nain as well. And as we move into Labrador City, we could see some showers there too. Moving on to Friday, getting close to the end of the work week, we'll see that shot of showers move across the island. A few here in Labrador West as well. And as we take a closer look now, you can see in St. John's, we will see cloudy skies with some showers there. 24, couple of degrees cooler in Marystown. Nice day in Central on Friday, though, 26 and some sun, and that expands over to the west coast. More cloud, though, for the southwest coast, but nice for St. Anthony and the Straits there as well, picking up some showers, cooler temperatures here in Labrador along the coast, spreading into Happy Valley Goose Bay, warmer, but possible showers and a nice day in Labrador City. Now, as we take a look at our long range, you can see that cool off coming. Tomorrow, it looks like it's going to be sun and cloud, 28, a degree cooler on Thursday, picking up some of those showers on Friday. Decent day there on Saturday, but cooler, so it might be nicer for you. Some more showers there, a chance of them on Saturday. When we go into central Newfoundland, the risk of thunder showers tomorrow, some showers on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, looking nice, picking up some more showers. A touch of a cool off for you. For western Newfoundland, showers possible Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, looking nice, some more showers on Sunday. And into Labrador, it looks like you've got a chance of showers along the coast every day, except for Saturday. A cool off coming for you, down to 13 degrees there on Sunday. Labrador West, chance of showers there for you folks on Wednesday and Thursday. Again, your weekend looking nice except for Sunday, cooling off down to 13 for you folks in the long range. And here we go, talking about cooling off. If you want to go for a dip, this is out in CBS. Two young boys there enjoying the water.
Oh, I wonder how cold it is there.
I swam in the water on the weekend. I'll tell you about that in just a second. But if you do want to send us a photo, please do. We love to look at them. NL photos at cbc.ca. And I swam in the water off Placentia, in beautiful Gooseberry Cove, sandy beach down there. And it was absolutely beautiful to swim in the ocean.
What a great way to cool down, for sure. And those folks in Labrador West, they're not going to know what it's like when it is 13 degrees. My goodness, it's such a hot summer, and what a change.
Far cry.
Gooseberry Cove?
Gooseberry Cove Provincial Park.
All right, check that one out. All right, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.